Growing up in the late 2000s to early 10s, me and my brother played a lot of video games. Minecraft, Arma 2, Borderlands 2, 40K Kill Team, Nerf Edge Strike, Resistance 3, which we never finished, and many others. We would spend countless hours just playing to our little heart's content. They all eventually led to us getting mad at each other and not playing for a few days afterwards. However, one game stands out as the crowning jewel of those memories, and that would be Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver on the Nintendo DS. Battling through our same yet different worlds, trying to find the very best Pokemon, leveling them up at daycares, and of course using an action replay to give us unlimited rare candy and Master Balls. Those were the days. But unfortunately those times have long since passed. However, recently I've discovered a game series thanks to YouTuber Synthetic Man that really captures the light-hearted and challenging essence of Pokemon in a more high-octane way, taking the turn-based combat and replacing it with a competitive and skill-based customizable mech game. He talked about the GameCube version. However, in the spirit of my channel, I decided to play the original on N64. Surprisingly, this game has been an unexpected nostalgia trip and a real eye-opener as to the amazing world of obscure Nintendo 64 titles. This is Custom Robo. This game was released exclusively in Japan in 1999, which then saw a port to the Chinese equivalent of an N64, the iQ, in 2006. It sold and scored well enough to get a sequel called V2 in the following year, and a Game Boy Advance title in 2002. However, it wasn't until the GameCube in 2004 when the US got their hands on this series. I haven't played it yet, and from what I've seen, I'm slightly hesitant, since it lacks the Pokemon art style, although it might have made many gameplay improvements. Guess we'll just have to wait till my review of that game to find out. The last release from this series was Arena on DS in 2006, eventually finding its way to Europe and Australia, finally giving them a taste in 2007. Unfortunately, no further games in this series have been made since then, and Custom Robo has been forgotten and remains widely unknown to the modern games market. But recently an English translation was released for the first game, and now any English speaker can finally enjoy this game how it was intended to be played. Now stop me when you've heard this one before. You start off as a small boy who may or may not have just moved into a new town. Upon moving, you discover there's this big craze amongst the youth that involves fighting each other. You never touched it before and know nothing about it. Once you do find out, you're a savant and dominate everyone in the entire town. Then you go for the championship trophies in all the lands, beating other high-rated players to then fight the ultimate warrior who everyone idealizes and become numero uno. However, along the way you learn about a secret organization of evildoers and you get entangled in a plot to stop them. If you haven't heard of this one before, then you have never played a Pokemon game in your life. This is the most standard, basic, and unoriginal story in a game of this genre, and I loved every second of it. Probably because of my aforementioned Pokemon days and blatant nostalgia goggles. So, as you can probably tell that this story isn't really worth mentioning, nor would I have any real qualms of spoiling it. However, in this game, the real story isn't the one told, it's the one experienced. Your weapon of choice is the Custom Robo, who, when not in combat, takes the shape of a cube. You take yours to the Robo Station, a place where players congregate to battle each other, honing their skills and train for upcoming tournaments. After accepting a battle invitation, you proceed to the launch screen, as I like to call it. You can customize the parts of your Robo, check the tutorials for basic controls, learn what all the different parts do, view the arenas you'll fight in, and check to see what parts your opponent has, all of which allows you to prepare before a fight begins. Even if you decide not to change your gear, you'll still gain valuable knowledge on how you should approach your opponent. Viewing the arena you'll be fighting in to see what conditions you might have to deal with is also a useful feature, since some maps support a more run-and-gun approach, while others encourage long-distance engagements. The maps also contain moving components that change the way a battle plays out mid-session, which keeps the combat fresh. Once your preparations have been made, you spawn in the arena stuffed into a cannon with 1,000 health points called energy. You choose which direction you shoot in, and it's up to luck what side you land on. If you land heads up, you get right into the action, but if you land, say, feet up, the time it takes to stand could result in free damage for your opponent. This is a fantastic feature that adds another level of strategy to the game. It gives you the option of playing it safe and keeping a watchful distance, or risk getting up close to score some early damage. This game is a key example of giving every element of control to a player as possible, giving seemingly endless options to approach combat. It plays out similar to Pipeworks' Godzilla trilogy, with an aerial camera following the combatants and zooming in and out when necessary. However, in this game there are no destructible buildings and you can't pick them up and launch them at each other. Shame. Progression is tied to finding parts that complement your fighting style. Guns are your basic damage dealers, coming in a wide variety from a close-range shotgun, a long-distance sniper rifle, a Gatling gun, and many unique ones that would definitely be paid DLC today. Bombs deal explosive damage that can get a few extra points of damage in. Some can arc up and fall down, others shoot straight out like one of your guns, and some slowly make their way to the target. Pods can be used to cut off enemy routes, seek them out to keep up pressure, or shoot out like a shotgun for easy damage. Legs modify jump height, air dash, fall recovery, speed, mobility, acceleration, and many other variables. You earn new parts by fighting opponents throughout the game, constantly unlocking unique and interesting pieces, some that will tailor to your playstyle and others that might even encourage you to change it. Surprisingly, there are no real stinkers. Although one may seem obviously better than the other at first, you'll soon realize the differences after a few fights. This game oozes replayability with hundreds of different possible combinations to choose from, and all of them are viable. However, there is one exception to that rule. A final boss should culminate all that you have learned thus far, squeezing every ounce of utility from your equipment and adapting on the fly to win. However, this fight is one of the most egregious examples of an unfair final boss in video game history. Let's start with his gun. It has close to medium range capability, with a lightning-fast, unavoidable projectile, and it can be fired twice before your temporary invulnerability kicks in, taking a fifth of your life bar. Now this wouldn't be so bad if the arena chosen wasn't the smallest in the entire lineup, and he has inhuman reaction times to boot. If one pixel peeks out from a corner, he hits you. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you somehow manage to fire before him, his projectile will cancel out yours most of the time. The only thing fair about him are his pod and bombs. But with the other issues, this leads to him repeatedly stun-locking you with no recourse. You can't run or jump because of his draw and straight bomb, you can't stay put thanks to his pods, and distance is impossible to maintain thanks to his stabilizer legs giving him immediate acceleration from standstill. Also, he can consistently dodge most of your projectiles with ease. Every fight up until this point in the game has given the player a choice of approach. Some may be less viable than others, but none were explicitly undoable. However, with this guy, you have no choice but to maintain as much distance as possible. This should be a lesson as how not to do a final fight in a game such as this, by giving the AI reaction times of an IndyCar driver on turbo, handicapping the player with a smaller arena, giving the boss zone control pods and bombs, and a 2-tap golem gun. This leaves no room to improvise. You either cheese this boss or hope to God his AI flukes enough times to net you a win. This will definitely leave you with a sour taste in the end, but thankfully doesn't ruin the rest of the overall experience, as the other fights don't suffer from these issues. Regardless of the final boss, this is an all-around mechanically solid game. Combining skilled combat with customizable parts and unique and fun environments is a match made in heaven. The story isn't much and only drives the different gear you'll unlock. However, it does provide a solid base for new players to get their feet wet and work their way up while tinkering around with their builds in a safe, gradually progressing environment. This game is well worth checking out and is truly a forgotten gem.